Okay. I know, but I don't have anything pulled up on this computer. So everybody, let's take a brief pause. Let me grab. I'm sorry. I think Shauna's looking for a plug for my computer as we speak. Okay. Second action. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry about that. So what we looked at was drop-ins, both members and just people dropping in. How many people visited the pool during the month of October in 2018, 19, 20? We skipped 21 because the data was really skewed because of COVID. In 2020, it wasn't as skewed because we had been open since July, but we were closed for part of October in 21. So we left that one out. And then 2023, and noted that the pool, the lap pool filter broke on October 9th. So basically for the whole month, we did not have that pool operational. And just at a cursory glance, you can see that in 2022, everything just kind of boomed. You can see that those gray bars. I mean, we got a lot of folks involved, and a lot of that is thanks to the Fitness RX the voucher program with St. Charles. And that's why this year they said, well, no more new referrals, because there were too many people and they couldn't afford it anymore. And so that's why you see it go down a little bit. But those yellow bars for 2024 are keeping pace for having a pool shut down for most of the month. And so I really believe that if our lap pool filter hadn't broken, those yellow bars would be up and above where the gray bars are. And so the question that that we were asked at a board meeting before was, well, what if we closed on Tuesdays, or in the mornings or in the afternoon, so we could be open on a Sunday? Because we've had a lot of requests to be open on Sundays. And I shared with the board that the hours that we have are a reflection of the usage data. And that as the executive director, operationally, in my mind, it made sense that we were open Tuesday to Saturday. And that the first place we would add, if we had staff capacity, was on Sunday afternoons. Because if you look at the data, Sunday PM for those 3 years, it was going down each year, but it was still, 20 to 30 people on a Sunday afternoon. And then the second place we would add is Friday nights, because Friday evening, like sunset swims, were very popular prior to our staffing being lower than it was. So that's the first graph. The second graph is the percentage of revenues. And so you can see that in prior years, before I started, most of the revenues were coming from memberships. And when I started, we calculated that folks were paying about 3 cents a day for their memberships. And so I proposed, and the board adopted, a new membership structure that was charging about 78 cents a day. But that's a big shift in cost. And so what we've seen is that our memberships went down initially, but they've been slowly climbing back as a percentage of our revenue. Punch cards initially went up because people were buying those instead of memberships. And then we made the decision to include punch cards as a membership. And I think that helped a lot of folks with getting additional discounts as part of that membership process. You can also see that the voucher program reduced by half, and that's because there are no more new referrals happening. And I do have information for you later in the agenda about that program, which essentially is completely changing January 1st, because the St. Charles will not be funding it the way that they have been in the past. So that is the mix of revenues. So what I would say to the board is, and after talking with Jenna, we know that our membership structure right now is not perfect, and we're working on computer program that's sort of driving the way that it is. And that's part of why too, if we are able to do an expansion, we would not propose any changes to that membership fee because we feel like it's sufficient where it's at, even if we add on additional spaces. The last slide I have for you, no, that one doesn't work, but thank you. It died, so I switched. Thank you, Peyton. I'm sorry. The last slide I have for you is October annual MAC revenue breakdown. And the thing I want you to take away from this slide is that even at our highest revenues for October, we were not at $12,000. $12,000 is our power bill and our water bill per month. So yes, we're talking about October revenues, but I also want to put it in the context of our budget and our expenses, that $12,000 doesn't cover more than 2 of our utility bills in a month. So all that to say, my recommendation is that we continue with the hours that we currently have, recognizing that when we have staff capacity to add on Friday nights and Sunday afternoons are our targets for if we're able to add on hours, but we just don't have the staff capacity right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, most of our revenues come in on Saturdays with open swims, but with the memberships and the drop-ins throughout the week, it was higher than I expected it to be. I mean, that's where it gets kind of tricky because a lot of people have those memberships that they can use. So drop-ins look like a lot on Saturdays, but a lot of those folks are not locals. And so it's hard to compare apples to apples when you're looking at memberships and drop-ins and what day people are spending, because they don't buy a membership every day, right? They might use that membership. So it's harder with the revenues, but with the drop-ins, you can see whether they have a membership or they're dropping in, what days they're using the facility. So that's why we've got both the revenue and the drop-in data.
So we track daily through the software.
Mm-hmm.
Who's coming in for what activities.
Mm-hmm.
So that's easy enough to look at. I was just curious today, looked at the website, and we're just so top heavy in what we do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with the availability for the lap swimmers, you know, our workout people. Is there one day we could take from that to have an open swim?
My answer right now would be no. Because if we took time away from those people, then they will be in here yelling. Okay, so I'm going to just put this on the record. Everybody is angry with me about our schedule, which tells me that we've been very equal in spreading the pain. Lap swimmers want more hours in the evenings. Swim team members for both the high school and the youth want Mondays. There's a lot of community members with families that want Friday nights and Sundays. Our fitness people want stuff in the evenings after 6 o'clock. I mean, we just can't meet everybody's need all the time. And so what we can do is look at our usage data and say, okay, we know that we've got a group of 174 people who are coming on Tuesdays in the mornings on average in October. I would rather have 174 people on Tuesday morning served than 19 people who came on a Sunday afternoon. So when you look at the data for the total month.
I can tell you yesterday, every single lane was taken at the 6 a.m. lap swim session.
Nobody is happy. And unfortunately, we're in a position where we can't make everybody happy because we don't have the staffing or the resources to do it. I wish I could say something better. I don't like getting yelled at or, nastygrams about my decisions about operations, but if I could do it, I would. I mean, we just don't have the staff capacity.
Well, on that topic, we hired all the lifeguards. We have it out there. We're still not getting.
We had to cancel our October lifeguard class because of the lap pool being closed. So we have 4 lifeguards, me and Shauna and Peyton.
Did we have others that wanted to take the lifeguard class?
We had 5.
We had 5, so they'll be able to take them now.
Scheduling, well, a couple of them have scheduling conflicts now, so they're probably gonna be pushed to the March class.
I mean, I can't stress enough how much that lat pool being down impacted our operations. In the past, we typically carry about 10 to 20 seasonal lifeguards, and we have 4 right now.
Well, my irons.
And they're Star Guard. I wish I had a better answer, and I'm sorry I don't. Lots in the chat. I think we answered, why are you're not at staff capacity? We don't have staff capacity. There's no way you can make everyone happy. But yes, so the goal in the evenings is that we're gonna add Fridays if we can ever get enough lifeguards and supervisors to do it. Yeah, that would be an open swim that would go from 6 to 8, I think we said.
We're hoping to do it sooner than later, but right now, like the week I just published, I'm guarding 3 to 6 every night. I'm the only lifeguard. Everybody else is doing swim lessons. So
And I'll probably be here as a backup deck supervisor after opening. I mean, we just can't, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. So that's the data. Are there any questions?
Hey, Courtney, I do have one question.
Madam Chair, do you want me to? We're gonna let Jaleesa ask her question and then we'll come back to you, Rob.
Okay, but not to add like more shit right now, but have we thought about like the impact, how it's gonna be impacted when Canada opens back up to, like, what does that look like?
I don't think we saw a difference in participation rates when Canada closed. It's been pretty consistent.
So you're talking participation rates are also the talent pool of being able to attract lifeguards if now there's another pool
Yeah,
not too far down the road. That didn't even occur.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Cause I'm not there, cause when I, long time ago, I worked at a shop, they had like a lot.
But a lot of the lifeguard comments hit from COVID because for COVID, all the class fees have been paying like $18 an hour, and you can't pay that. So, and then you're asking someone to do all these certifications for a $14, $15 an hour job, where they have a lot of responsibility when they can go to something where they just sit there and mindless comment.
Well, and Mary, to your question, is Saturday your only open swim available for public use? That is the only, Saturdays are the only days during the school year that we have open swim, but we are open for public use every single day from 6 to noon and 3:30 to 6. It's just the usage is different for different groups of folks, but it's always open for public use. Rob, what was your question?
Back to, could you touch a little more? Amber had a question on staffing. Could you a little more? You said because you weren't at full staffing. Why is that? Is that due to the layoffs, or you can't fill positions, or what?
Yeah, so we did a reduction in force in September because we don't have the funding to fix all of our capital issues and have full-time staff or seasonal staff for certain hours. So we did lay off employees and cut hours. We also were unable to hold a lifeguard class in October, and we had a number of guards leave to go to college and move on with their lives as newly graduated students. And so we currently have 4 seasonal lifeguards and 3 full-time staff who can function as lifeguards, myself, Shauna, and Peyton. And it's been really challenging. Also, once we get all those seasonals, hopefully we can hire, we're gonna have a lifeguard class in December, we're gonna have one in March, and then we'll do another one in June. That still only leaves 3 adult lifeguards. And so one of our challenges is we can't afford the number of supervisors we need to run the pool. Prior to my arrival, we had 17-year-olds working 7 days a week and supervising and being the adult in the building in the pool. And I am not willing to do that as the person responsible for operations. So we always have an adult in the building who's over 18 years old and who can respond to emergencies and patron needs. And unfortunately, we just don't have the staffing levels we need to do that 7 days a week or more than 5 days a week right now.
Thank you.
Yep. Other questions? Right, Madam Chair.
Okay, next up on the agenda is standing and timely updates. Starting with budget committee vacancy appointment.
We had one applicant for our budget committee. She is a morning swimmer fitness participant. Her name is Michelle, and her application is in your board packet. And it is on the agenda for you to appoint her to the budget committee tonight. You can see in her application, she wants to help. She's got some experience from when her kids were doing recreation programs, being involved in volunteer organizations. And she brings a perspective of her words, seniors who like to swim and be in fitness. So that is your budget committee applicant. Any questions about that?
Okay, next up, we have capital improvements and other maintenance projects.
Lap pool filters fixed. We're still waiting on a motor, but the current motor we have is working. We're also waiting on the new pump, and the current one we have is it's limping. We are also going to be replacing all the CO2 injectors and some other things back there. So there are some other things that still need to happen. The good news is it's all working right now and our staff are managing it well. We have a group of 5 certified pool operators. 3 of us are in the room right now. And as well as Amanda and Dennis. And we are doing our best to keep it going. I will tell you that there is a budget adjustment on the agenda tonight because we need to add more money to capital because our domestic water heater is about to die. It's on its last leg. We have to reset it 10 to 15 times a day. And so what that means is when someone comes in the morning, if I forget to check it first thing, they get a cold shower. And so then, you know, we're trying to make that part of our morning process to double check that it's working. It went into service in 2007, and typically a lifespan for that is 15 to 20 years. So we're pushing up against the end of its life. I've gotten 2 quotes so far. One is $24,000 and one is $39,000. So I'm waiting on a 3rd quote. And we'll move forward with that fix.
And that's just for faucets and showers, correct?
Yes, that's just for domestic water. We've knock on wood. So those are our capital improvement and other maintenance projects. I also wanted to note for the record that we no longer have offsite storage, and I would love to invite the board to come back and check out how our amazing team has fixed up our maintenance space to store everything on site so that we don't have to have that. That's it on that. Any questions about capital or maintenance?
Next up, we have the update on St. Charles voucher program transition.
So about 7 months ago, St. Charles staff came to me and said, you know, the program's gotten too big. You've got 8 referring providers locally who are referring patients to come to the pool and get this voucher for free. We can't afford to fund it anymore. So you need to figure out a different way to approach this program. So we've done a few things that we wanted to share with you. One is Natalia, one of our front desk staff, reached out and got us into Silver and Fit and Active and Fit. So these programs are run generally through health insurance plans. Silver and Fit is through Medicare, and folks are eligible to receive a free membership basically through these programs. So these are 2 new programs that we're adding to our repertoire for memberships. Also, Pacific Source, for folks that have health insurance through them, they do 10 or 20 punch card. They'll buy them for their folks who are with their health insurance plan. And so that is another option for folks who are covered by that. The 4th option on this flyer is the provider referral program, which is formerly known as the voucher program. And what I'm doing is I'm reaching out to all the providers to meet with them individually, talk with them about this change starting January 1st, and offering them to become a referring provider. And essentially they're going to pay $30 per membership, or they could do an annual, or they can do a quarterly for any of their patients, but they have to pay for it now instead of St. Charles covering the cost. So I just wanted you to be aware that that's how we're trying to keep it really simple. And then I am applying for grants. So there's a grant through Oregon Health Authority that potentially could pay for the program so providers don't have to. So that's due on Friday. So I've been working on that. And then I have a meeting with some staff from St. Charles Friday to talk a little bit more about maybe we could just keep it going a little bit longer and do it at the fiscal year instead of the calendar year. So there's still some conversations to be had, but wanted you to be aware that we are reaching out to do provider referrals in a different way. Any questions about any of that? The Silver and Fit and Active and Fit is really the star of this show because we hope that we'll gain some new members from that.
So is St. Charles now paying for everyone that they got referred?
That's what they're currently doing. Yeah. And that is my update on that program. And I don't have any grant updates, except we're applying for every single one that I find.
And if there's nothing else for the work session, we will close that at 7:45. And unless anyone needs a break, we will look to jump right into the business meeting to convene at 7:46. I'll take attendance again. Director Seabold is present. Vice Chair Foster Drago is absent. Secretary Treasurer McCloskey. Board Member Lewis. And Board Member Seppa. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sean is getting the lights turned on so we can see the flag.
Just need to speak maybe a little bit closer.
There we go. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have our land acknowledgements. Every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will, some were drawn to leave their distant homes in hopes of a better life, and some have lived on this land for more generations than can be counted. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We begin this effort to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. In Central Oregon, we are standing on the ancestral lands of the Wasco, Warm Springs, and Paiute people. We pay respects to their elders, past and present. Okay. Next on the agenda, we are looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Agenda is adopted as presented. Next up, we have the presentation of the fiscal year 2022-23 audit by Brenda Bartlett.
Hi, Brenda.
Hi there.
Do you want me to share the letter and everything on my screen, or do you want to share your screen?
It's whatever's easiest for you. I don't know if they've got a package, but I do have it pulled up if you'd like me to share.
I've got,
That
we
doesn't mean
can,
that I'm looking at the side.
was gonna say, I can get it up
That'd
here.
be great. Then I can look forward. Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks for having me again this year. We really enjoy our partnership with the MAC. Just start off like I do every year, talking about our report. And this first page, oh, sorry, Courtney, I'm going to go over the report. I'm just noticing that as I look at it, that we're on the letter, I think. So this is in the package, and it's like, I don't know, I think it might be page 1.
Okay, hold on here.
And I can share mine too, if it makes sense.
Why don't you share yours? Because
I
I'm gonna
will.
have to dig for mine.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, let's do that. Here we go. All right. Can you all see my screen
Yes.
that has a letter with our letterhead? Is that what you're seeing? Because I can't see the green around it, so I just want to make sure I'm sharing the right thing.
Yes, it is. We can see it, Brenda.
Sounds great. All right. So we start off with our report. This is really what you get. This is your assurances and what we did and just some communication. So we talk first about our opinion and what we did. We audited the accompanying financial statements, and as of June 30, 2023. And then we say our opinion is that the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects for that time period. This is what you're looking for as you're looking at an audit. We call it an unmodified opinion. Sometimes people call it clean opinion, but that's what you're looking for. We want to be able to, this is your reliance on what management has presented about financial results. The basis for our opinion is next. And basically what we're saying is that we conduct this audit and are able to provide this opinion in accordance with our professional auditing standards. The next thing is just kind of calling out that really all of the numbers and most everything in the package is management's responsibility. So we do assist the MAC in presenting or creating these financial statements, but they're all based on information that staff has given us. And then Courtney goes and reviews it at the end to make sure that we've done a good job and it's representative of what, you know, the financial results were and there's no mistakes. So she does a pretty thorough review for us and takes responsibility for the financial statements when all's said and done. So then talking about our responsibilities to actually look at those numbers and audit them. And so what that usually means is, you know, the gold standard for what we do is going out and finding some third-party evidence. So for example, if I want to audit cash, what we'll do is we'll go to the bank and we'll confirm that what management has said is in the bank account is really in the bank account. So we do those kinds of things. We look at those numbers and confirm them as much as possible. We get third-party evidence that's outside both of us and management to make sure that the numbers that you're looking at are fairly stated. One of the things that they like us to let you know as we're going through this is that we exercise professional judgment. We maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. We look to see where the risks are, where the most important areas are that we think we should spend the most time. We make sure that we understand management's processes because that helps us decide what's important. So if, for example, we found a process that we thought maybe wasn't really good enough to make sure there's no errors, we'd spend more time there, and we'd also let you know if we found any problems with that process. So that's to the extent of looking at those processes and really understanding them to make sure that there's nothing we need to report to the board. We look at the district's accounting policy, make sure that they're in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And then we also look at what we call a going concern, and that is something that says that the district will be continuing to operate beyond a reasonable period of time, which is usually about 12 months past our report. Included in the report package is some additional information, the most important of which really is the management's discussion and analysis. I always direct boards and the public to go there because it's a bite-sized information of what went on during the year and just a nice year over year comparison of where you were this in 22 versus 2023. Also of interest is the budget to actual schedule for the general fund, although you guys probably have seen that so many times, and by the time we come in and present it, it's a little bit long in the tooth because you've already probably budgeted for the next year. But those are the two things that are in here that we don't give an opinion on, but are they're useful information. Let's see. We also are required to pull in the budget and actual for the debt service and the maintenance reserve fund, but those are considered supplementary information. We usually just trace those out and make sure that they're representative of what the budget was and what the actual was. And then finally, we are required in Oregon, the state requires additional procedures that are really non-financial. They're more compliance and legal related. And so we are required to do some extra work that doesn't have anything to do with financial statements. And we're also required to report on that and give the board and the public some assurances on that as well. So does anybody have any questions on this first report? All right, great. Then I'm going to move on to the next report, which is the very end, and that's that Oregon report that I kind of talked about. It's a big report. Okay, so this is the Oregon report. Really, we kind of call it a compliance report. It's really what it is. It says right there in compliance. So as we're conducting a financial audit, we do these add-on procedures related to that bold and bulleted list there in the middle. We're looking to make sure that your surplus funds are invested in places that are safe according to the state. So there's a number of banks in the state that the state says it's okay to put your money there because they're insured beyond FDIC by some collateral. So there's that. We make sure that you're not exceeding your indebtedness limitation that's set by the state. We're taking a look at your budget process every year, making sure that all the things that are really important, like publishing and appropriating, those kind of things, were followed with the legal rules. We take a look and make sure that you've got insurance and fidelity bonds in place. Programs funded from outside sources, that's grant funding. So as you're aware, I think Courtney even said it, she's going out for every grant. And as you get those grants, a lot of them have restrictions on them. So one of the things the state says we need to do is look at some of those significant restrictions and just make sure that the district's complying with them. So in other words, if you say you're going to spend the money on this program, that you did end up in fact spending the money on that program. So we're looking at that. Investment is the same type of thing. You don't have any real investments, but we still, if you had investments, we would be looking at that. And then we look at public contracting and purchasing. So making sure you're complying and ensuring competitive bidding, which is one of those state laws. We did notice that this year the district overspent one of its appropriations of facility services by $51,000. So if I recall correctly, Courtney, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it wasn't overspent in total, it was just in one of the buckets.
Right. So my brain grew through this process, board. I own it when I do something wrong. We were budgeting to the category level of personnel, materials, and services. And the way we have been adopting our budget is not that way. The way we've been adopting our budget is by programs, facilities, and admin. So we will be looking at adopting it differently this year so that we are tracking it by either the category level or just rec services as a whole, because I really thought we were not going to have any violations of local budget law, and my brain grew on this one. So I apologize. This one was my fault.
Yeah, and it just has a lot to do with if the resolution says X, then we have to look at X. But overall, the district didn't overspend. So there's always unders and overs. But once you put something on that resolution and this is the number, then that's what we're looking at. So overall, no major overspending. It was just categorical. So does anybody, I'm going to pause. Does anybody have any questions of me or Courtney on that one?
That one just fries my bacon. I just,
And on a side note, now sometimes when you have findings, you'll have to create a plan of action, have a resolution. This isn't one of those, but Courtney, if they do happen to read this, to read the report, they read a sample of them every year. You might get a letter saying, hey, what are you going to do about this? And
Yep.
you're going to say exactly what you just said to me and the board, you know, that you learned something and you're going to make sure that the resolution matches. So, but you may not. Sometimes you don't, because when we report, we don't report any violations. And so when we report a finding, they will look at the report, but this isn't a reportable violation. It's just in the letter. So.
Got it.
And then internal control, again, kind of got ahead of myself there. We had no internal control findings. So those would be something that we have to report to the Secretary of State, and they would follow up. So no internal control findings, meaning that everything that we looked at, we didn't find any big holes that concerned us in your processes that could let error or fraud go through in the financial statement. So pretty tight ship, in good shape there. So. Any questions on this before I move on to the letter? Okay, awesome. So this is the letter, and everybody gets this letter. Sometimes if you have findings, you get an extra letter, but this year, no findings. And so this is a letter that really was devised by our professional standard setter, because we do so much work with management. I spend 99% of my time on this audit with Courtney and the staff, but really we're hired by the board and accountable to the board and the public. So they were saying, hey, you know, auditors, you're not doing a great job of making sure you're communicating with the board. So this letter came about, and every year it seems to grow a little bit. They keep thinking of new things that they feel we should share with you, which in my mind has always been really positive. Some of the things they're sharing, asking us to share with you, so that we kind of keep that open communication. This first section is really what I was talking about, that responsibility of the financial statement audit. I already covered that, what we're responsible for and what the district's responsible for. We did conduct the audit consistent with what we had planned in the beginning. There were no big things that made it delayed. I'm here in November, which is awesome. Let's see. I talked a little bit about this in the report. Some of this is a little repetitive for the report, but we do go through and do that risk assessment process, looking to see what might be risky in the district and what's maybe risky in the industry as a whole. And then we'll plan our audit to spend a lot of time there. We do a little bit, we talk about materiality. So, you know, we have to have some kind of threshold where we're not looking at every transaction, because you don't want to pay us to look at a $10 transaction. So we always, everything that we do is really set with a mindset of, is $10 important, or am I really wanting to look at $10,000? So that's really what the concept of materiality is. We make sure that we're independent. That means that nobody on the team has any family relationship or business relationship or investment relationship with anybody at the district. So we make sure we do those kinds of certifications every year. We have our staff just look at a list of the clients and say, do you know anybody there, anything like that? So we make sure we comply with that. This section is one of the new ones that we added last year that the standard setter said. It caused a little bit of alarm for some people last year, because whenever you hear the word significant risks in relation to your district, you start thinking, oh no, what does this mean? But really what this is it's just telling you, it's giving you a little bit more insight into our process. And like I've been saying, we will sit down and we'll say, we want to get to know the MAC, we want to get to know the MAC's processes. And then we're going to say, where do we think the risk is and where do we want to spend the most time? We don't want to spend a lot of time in cash, because we can confirm that cash with outside vendors. So where we really want to spend our time is in revenue. And one of the reasons for that is because of the point of sale system. It's not because of anything that management's done. It's because number one, revenue is always a little bit of a risky area. But number two, when you have two accounting systems going on, you got to make sure that, you know, the human error piece doesn't miss some of that revenue, right? So that's why we call that a significant risk. It's really, you're going to find that in any audit that maintains a point of sale system outside of their accounting system. And there's other reasons too. If you had a lot of grants, you'd probably see grant compliance there. If you are successful in getting more grants, you might see that we consider that to be significant risk as well. So anybody have any questions on significant risk? Because that's probably the one thing I get the most questions about. Okay, good. I must be getting better at explaining it. All right. So the significant accounting policies for the district are all laid out in note 1 to the financial statements. There are some estimates. The MAC doesn't have a ton of estimates, but one of the most big estimates is really the useful life of assets. So I've heard you talk a lot about, and you know, a lot of part of this audit was repairing and maintaining and, you know, deferred maintenance and those kind of things. So one of the things that's hard to do is when you buy something, how long do you think that's going to last? So that's why one of these things, you know, we depreciate it. Is it going to last 10 years? Is it going to last 15? We don't really know. It might change. And so that's why it's considered an estimate. Let's see. We didn't note any significant unusual transactions. We didn't identify any fraud, and we had no significant difficulties. This is a really pleasant audit. Courtney and the staff is really responsive. We get through things pretty quickly. No uncorrected misstatements and no corrected misstatements. So that were material. And so that's always good because that means that the numbers that came to us were in really good shape. We didn't find any errors that we asked management to correct before we could issue our report. No disagreements with management. We didn't, as I kind of already talked about, we didn't alter the content of our auditor's report. We had an unmodified opinion, and that's what we presented. We do, there's a lot of things, you know, we ask for a lot of information. We do a lot of inquiry of management. So at the end of the audit, we do ask management, which is Courtney in this case, to sign a representation letter, just basically saying, I've told you everything that you need to know. Everything is in the financial statements that need to be there, and those kind of things. We weren't aware of consultation with any other accountants. Yeah, that's about it. Everything went really well. We always appreciate working with Courtney because she gets us our stuff right away and she keeps her commitment. So we try to keep ours. So really appreciate that.
Any questions for Brenda?
No. Thank you, Brenda.
All right, thanks. I will take off. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, Brenda.
Bye.
Okay, then we are looking for a motion to receive the fiscal year 2022-23 audit.
I think we should receive the fiscal year 2022.
Thank you, Janelle. Any second? Thank you, Jean. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay, next on our agenda, we have correspondence.
Okay, board members, we have a very thick risk management review from SDAO that I will not go through tonight at the meeting, but it's in your packet, so you can take a look at it. As always, I have Google reviews and Facebook insights for you. So we had a few Google reviews over the last few weeks. Very polite staff, had a great time. Another 5-star, a couple 5 stars. And then on Facebook insights, we have 2,600 Facebook followers and 346 Instagram followers. Part of our layoffs included our marketing intern, and so we've reshuffled responsibilities for marketing, and we've got a front desk staff person, Natalia, that's really taking the lead on that. And you can see that we've consistently been posting more consistently on Facebook and Instagram, and just trying to get more information out there through social media. And then you can see the reach, November 16th, that particular post was that our filter was repaired. And then you can see that content interactions are down over the prior month, and Instagram content interactions are up. So don't really know what that's about, but that's what we have for you for correspondence this month.
Okay, next up is the visitors section, public comment. At this point, members of the public are welcome to speak to the board of directors during this time. They should sign in at the beginning of the meeting to be recognized by the board chair. Speakers are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes.
And we have no one that has signed up to speak, but Mary or Rob, do either one of you want to address the board during this time?
I'm good.
Thanks. All right.
All right, next up we have financial reports.
Right. So because we didn't have a meeting in October, September's month-end financial reports are in there. Again, I'm not going to go over those because you have October in here too. But Jean, do you have anything you want to say about September before we?
No, we went. I didn't bring my notes.
Jean had a lot of good questions. She always does.
You want me to bring those to the board meeting next time?
Yeah, I think that'd be good. You could tell them what you asked. For October, I just wanted to note that a lot more property tax revenue came in October than last year. So we do show that our assets are up at the end of October by about 19%. Our credit card spending is down. Our accrued vacation is down because we've been forcing people to take vacations, try and get them some time out of the building when we can. Payroll liabilities are down by about 6%, and that's because of our layoffs and our reduction in force. And so overall, our balance sheet shows an increase in assets of 19%. When you look at our profit and loss statement for the month of October, revenues have been impacted by the lap pool being closed. Not as much as I expected. We did have to cancel 2 swim lesson sessions because we had to accommodate swim team in the pool where we would normally do swim lessons. And then we also did lose revenue on open swims because we had to restrict us to 60 people max rather than our 120 to 160. Honestly, as a staff, it was almost a blessing that the lap pool was closed because we really didn't have enough staff to staff it in October. Although we would have done the lifeguard class if we had had it up. So, you know, it wasn't impacted as much as we expected. So like I mentioned, property taxes in October came in way higher than we expected, almost $100,000. That means they're coming in a little lower than expected in November. It's just more people paid early than last year. Let's see, what else did I want to note? So daily admissions was at about 66% of expected revenue, and swim lessons were down as well. I also wanted to note that this year we're doing something different with our coaches credits. So when we have volunteer coaches in the past, we just added those credits to their account and not taken it out of, not put it in as an expense. And so now for us, we want to be able to demonstrate that it is an expense to the district when we give volunteer coaches credits. So youth flag football coaches got a total of $624 in credits for volunteer coaching, and soccer got $1,000 and $1,024 in credits for coaching. So you see that reflected as a negative revenue because we put it there to demonstrate that those credits occurred. Basketball went gangbusters in October. So we were above budget. And I believe we're above budget in November as well. It's just those registrations just keep rolling in for youth basketball. Okay. We'll give an update on rec programs during the director report. And so programs and services revenue was still only half of what we expected for the month because we had to, in my opinion, because of the pool closure. We did have a prior month adjustment on interest that came in through the county. So you see a negative amount there. And so total income, because of the property taxes being so much higher than expected, was 135% of budget. And then when you look at payroll, we were at 97% of budget for the month. I noted a few materials and services expenses that were unanticipated that made us go over budget. We did have to buy $600 worth of field paint. That was unanticipated. And then our soccer t-shirts, because we had so many kiddos participating, it was a little bit more than we thought it would be. And so as you go down, we had our annual Climate Tech. Climate Tech is the brains basically of all of our systems. And so we had our annual fee due for them. And then natural gas looks really high because we paid 2 months in one, just because of timing when we got the bills. Oh, let's see. So overall materials and services was a little bit over budget for the month, but we'll be under budget, I think, this month coming up. And so we make up for it as we go. And then capital equipment, we had to pay half down on our boiler. So that's one of the boilers that heats the pools. We have a $9,000 expense there. So this is 50% of that. And then there's an additional $7,000 expense for the other boiler. And then we're also going to be replacing the water heater. So it's just keeps coming. So our total expenses were over budget by a few $1,000s. And then as we look at the debt fund, again, property taxes was way more than what we expected in October. And that is that. Let me go to the next financial report. So what I like to do is look at the prior year. And so the first report that you see here is our current year actuals to budget just through October, because now we're entering our monthly budgets in so we can see. And so I just noted a few areas that we're keeping an eye on as a staff. Programs and services revenue is at about 80% of budget, but memberships are up beyond what we expected. The thing that's kind of killing us right now is partner programs is the St. Charles, because we budgeted for more of that to come in before they stop doing extra referrals. So that's part of why that budget is down a little bit. Donations and fundraising is up because of our great partners at the Beam Foundation and Keith Manufacturing and Brightwood helping us out with those repairs in the pump room. And so our total income is at 107% for July 1 through October 31st. Personnel is at 92.6% of budget. Materials and services is at 83%. Capital is over budget, but we did do a budget adjustment that addresses that. So overall, we're at about 75% of budget for the first July, August, September, 4 months of the fiscal year. Then we look at a comparison to the prior year. And so I wanted to note a few things on this. You can see my highlights. So remember, our beginning fund balance was way lower than the prior year because of all those maintenance issues we had last year. Grants are down significantly because the state didn't do that summer programming grant again this past summer. And so our revenues are down by about 27%, but that's really because of our beginning fund balance and the grants. Everything else actually year over year is pretty stable, with the exception of partner programs, which is down quite a bit. Personnel is down about 6.5%. Our materials and services expenses are down about 23% over last year. Capital's killing us this year, and it's just going to keep going up because of needing to replace that water heater too. And then lastly, I think the last report I have for you is our cash flow analysis for the July, August, September, October, November months, the Jason analysis. And I just wanted to show the board that in September, we did have to hold back bills in September and October because we did not have the money to pay it. Because the tax revenue, remember, for the current fiscal year doesn't come in until November when people pay their property taxes. So we're reliant on our carry forward from the prior year, which was much lower than last year, and the tax anticipation loan that the county gives us. So we did hold back. I think we just paid about $160,000 worth of bills for the last 2 months. And a lot of that was capital. I think 60,000 of it was capital for the pump room stuff that we had to replace. In a perfect world, we'd be carrying forward $300,000 every year that we could use to get us through those Jason months until our property taxes come in. Yes, in a perfect world, we would have funds in a capital maintenance fund, exactly, that we could use. Now, overall, as I look conservatively at our revenues and expenses through the rest of the fiscal year, I think we're probably going to end the fiscal year right around $47,000 to $50,000, assuming that we don't have any other major issues. I know. I hate even saying it because I feel like it puts it out there. But it's not red. So, and we're really hopeful that we figure out a sustainable path forward so that we don't have to, I'll tell you, it's my first time in this position, not being able to pay bills. And after I paid payroll at the end of October, we had $14 left in our checking account. And it was stressful thinking that maybe we wouldn't make payroll. So, I'm glad that taxes are in and that we don't have to worry about this for a little bit longer, but we definitely been talking about as a team, every dollar counts. Every dollar counts. So every dollar we don't spend on something is a dollar we have to make payroll during the Jason months. So we've been really focusing on that. And they're tired of hearing me say, stop, we're not spending any money. So any questions on the finances? Anything to add, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
No, I was just trying to remember what some of the things were that I asked you about this. I remember one of them was credit card.
Yes, and the timing.
But yeah, what charges?
Yes.
It's an important issue to include that credit card statement. So that.
Yeah, because the credit card is mid-month, the prior month to mid-month of the current month. And so when I ran the report, I was just running it for the whole month. So it was missing the last 15 days of the prior. So.
And another thing we talked about was the software inventory. We negative 3 or something that pops out at you. Negative.
Yep. Yep. And so we talked about how sometimes campers don't bring snacks and maybe it goes that way, or maybe staff isn't maybe counting it correctly and getting it in the system correctly. So if we see an overage or an underage by a lot, then we investigate what that issue is. We found out at one point that our lifeguard staff were taking water bottles from here, not realizing that those are the ones we sell, like that kind of thing. So we look into it if there's a big discrepancy.
But it's just more or less like getting up to speed on the reading of the software.
And I will throw it out there. Anybody that wants to come look at the books, come on in. I am happy to share all the things with everybody. It's open book.
Anything else for financial reports? Then we are looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Thank you, Jean. Any second? Second. Thank you, Jean. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes. Next up, we have considering adopting the MACRD 10-year master plan.
Yeah, so you had your presentation during the work session. One of the things that I shared with Deanna, because she had emailed me some questions about it on the timeline in particular, is that the timeline is a suggestion based on the consultants looking at the scope of work and the staffing we have. Some things might happen sooner, some things might happen later, and really it's about us at the beginning of the year setting the goals that the board wants to attack for the upcoming year. So we do that work session in February, March, as we're building the budget, to talk about what actions you want to see focused on. So board may say, you know what, staff, we don't want to wait till year 10 to do X, Y, Z. Please do it next year. And I'll say, okay, well, what are we going to move off the 1 to 2 year? I'll tell you right now, looking at our 1 to 2 year plan, I'm not sure that there'll be time for anything else for the next year, depending on what the decisions are in December and January about moving forward with an election potentially. So we'll present a draft action plan that's consistent with the master plan each year, so the board can have input on how we budget, so that the budget aligns to the action plan, aligns to the master plan, and it's all consistent.
So if we were not the master plan, bottom falls out, we don't have a sheets of outline in there. We would not define what we do.
I think then we would look at it and say, okay, what are the things that we can accomplish in it with that don't require those things to happen? Yeah, that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I'm not totally, yeah. We adopted it, maybe we have to make it all happen.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
If Ren doesn't want to make a motion.
I'll make a motion. Thank you. Do we have a second?
Yes, second.
Okay.
We'll adopt it as long as you won't hold us to it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Wow.
Okay, next up, we have resolution 2024-05, looking at budget adjustments for the fiscal year 2023-24, budget period beginning July 1st, 23.
Board members, I would love to tell you that this is the last budget adjustment we're going to have, because I think this is the 4th one this year. And really what this adjustment does is it moves budget authority from our materials and services budget and facilities down to capital outlay, so that we can afford, hopefully, to replace that water heater. It also reduces our ending fund balance by $3,000 to put that budget authority up in capital outlay. But that's the proposal, and that 20,000 is coming out of, let me get down to that line item. It's coming out of our facilities budget under supplies and under repairs and maintenance. So we're taking that budget authority from those 2 line items. Sean and I took a look at our actuals through this time period, and we don't think we need that much budget authority in those 2 line items. So.
Can you show us where the donated money from Keith, Brightwood, Keith Foundation for this last failure, where it dumped in?
It will go in down here under donations.
At any point would we move funds from the donations then to cover this?
Because the donations are all part of the revenue, at this point, I wasn't going to propose moving those funds from savings into, because right now they're sitting in our savings account dedicated for maintenance. It came in under donations, and then I stuck it in the savings account. And my hope is that we get to the end of the year and I can say, you know, we're going to put that $30,000 into our maintenance savings fund. So that is my goal. we may at the end of the year look at it and say, no, we had to use some of that money to help with pump room repairs or maintenance, but my goal is to save it for future repair needs. That's my hope. But like the master plan told me to it. That's the goal.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes. Next up, we have fiscal year 2024-25 budget development related items.
So we talked about our one applicant for the budget committee vacancy, position 7, Michelle Kish. So that would be your first action. Mhm. If you have more than one, you would normally do an interview, but because there was one, I told her she didn't have to come to the meeting. We spent lots of time talking about it, for what it's worth. She's really excited. Yep, a point. To position 7.
And that was seconded by Jean. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next up, we have considering approving the fiscal year 2024-25 budget calendar.
How are we already talking about 24-25? So your budget calendar's in your packet. There's a few things that I wanted to highlight for you. The budget calendar includes deadlines for staff as well as the board. And it kind of outlines our expected conversations over multiple board meetings over the next 6 months. So today you're appointing budget committee member and the master plan getting adopted. We're going to have some staff work that gets done on working on any budget adjustment that might be needed based on our actuals through 6 months, which is through the end of December. On December 27th, you'll receive a report from the BRS consultants on facility maintenance, future capital needs, and sustainable funding. We kind of talked about the sustainable funding tonight. So the next piece will be Keith talking about kind of the architecture side of it. We'll have draft revenue and expenditure assumptions in January. And I want to be clear, because of the timing, if the board decides to go forward with dissolving the district and having a new permanent rate, my proposal is that that would not go into effect until 2025-26. So it gives us time to work through all of the legal ramifications of that vote. We're talking completely getting a new EIN number, all new systems set up. I mean, if the district is withdrawn and a new one created, it creates a lot of work. The other piece of that is if a bond is passed, we still have 1 more year to pay on our current bond. So in talking with our bond counsel, what we would do is we would not issue bonds for the new bond until the current one is paid off. Because if we did issue bonds, then people would get 2 bond fees on their taxes, and that is not something we want to do. So we've talked through the timing in a way that it doesn't impact anybody's tax bill negatively for us to finish paying out the current bond and then issue bonds for the new one should it pass. Originally, I thought I was going to have to do 2 budgets for you, one if it passes and one if it doesn't. But because I'm recommending that we wait till 25-26, it means we only need 1 budget this year. We're not changing anything. And then it gives us a year to develop the plan if it passes or if it fails. So I just wanted to make that clear because I'd had a couple conversations with folks that I thought we might have to do 2 budgets, but we don't. So 1 budget, status quo budget, unless the board has other direction. And that conversation will happen in January. So in January, we'll do a mid-year budget review, and we'll look at and we'll get official direction from the board on how you want us to approach budget development. In February, I will go through the high-level budget assumptions. You know, are we doing a cost of living adjustment? Are we increasing or decreasing how we provide insurance to our staff? All of those different things. Should we assume more participation or less? All those assumptions that go into budget development we'll discuss in February. In March, we will look at any policy updates that have to happen. If we want to change membership policies or refund policies or any of that kind of stuff, we'll do that as part of that review process. In April, we'll continue to look at policies and procedures. And then yes, it is.
I will not.
Okay. To keep up. So in February, maybe we'll look and we'll have a conversation and see if we have quorum, and if not, we'll move it. Madam Chair, does that work? Okay. Okay. And then our budget committee orientation will be May 2nd, which is a Thursday, which means the proposed budget will be printed April 30th. Election day is on Tuesday, May 21st. And then May 22nd will come in for our budget committee meeting, our first one. And then we have a second one scheduled for the following Wednesday, should it be needed. So those budget committee meetings happen in place of your regular work sessions. And then we're proposing a special meeting of the board on June 12th to adopt the budget, just so we have time before the end of June in case something comes up that we need to take a look at. And then you'll have your regular June board meeting on the 26th. So that's the proposed budget calendar, with the potential of moving the March meeting. Any questions?
If no questions, then we are looking for a motion to approve the fiscal year 2024-25 budget calendar. Thank you, Janelle. Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes. Next up, we have the executive director report.
Couple things. So we've talked about the lap pool filter. That's going well. We're glad that's done. We wanted to share with the board a couple things we did while we were closed. So we did work with MST, and they practiced in our leisure pool. We waived all fees for the facility for them through the month of October after the closure and November. So I wanted to share that with you. Also, for Madras High School, because the closure was right at the beginning of their season, Amanda and I have been coming in. We came in last Monday, this Monday, and we'll be coming in next Monday so that they could have some extra time in the water. So we did give them some extra Monday practice that was limited because of the closure. And as much as I would love to work 6 days a week, next week is the last time that we're doing that this year. I got recertified as a shallow lifeguard on November 3rd, which was my birthday, so we'll never forget. Thanks to the Inn at Cross Keys. So because I had to get a brick at 5 or 6 feet, 5 feet, we had to have 5 feet of water, and we don't have that without the lap pool. So the Inn at Cross Keys was kind enough to let me jump in and get a brick and do my 2 minutes of treading water, and then I did my 300 in the leisure pool and was able to pass my recert for lifeguard. Because we were talking about what were we going to do in the morning if I'm not certified, and it was not pretty. So we got that done. We've successfully launched Silver and Fit and Active and Fit memberships. So we're excited about that. Shauna is working with CUIC on internships and trying to get some youth interested in working for us. Hopefully this leads to more lifeguards in our staffing. We also have sent information out to both Culver and Madras High Schools and Bridges about lifeguards needed. So we are working with our partners as we can to try and get the word out. We talked about this November was our first month without a $145 payment. So in the grand scheme of things, saving some money there. We're soliciting quotes for replacing the water heater, which we talked about already. Talked about the lifeguard class being canceled, and it's been rescheduled. And Peyton is our lifeguard instructor, so she'll be leading that class while also doing swim lessons and some other things. So December is going to be wild for the team. And so if you see any of our staff, if you could just give them a attaboy thumbs up. December is going to be a little crazy. During the Thanksgiving week, we offered our first fall break camp, which is not something we've done before. We had 5 kiddos signed up. And as we know, it just takes time to build interest in programs. And then, like we said, group swim lessons were canceled in October through December. So we'll start those back up in January. Our private lessons have been going gangbusters. A lot of people choosing to do private lessons one-on-one. So that's been really good. And then enrollment updates, and this is where Janelle, we're happy to answer questions about basketball. So we had no youth basketball enrollment as of September 25th because it opened October
8th.
October
or
8th.
October 10th.
And as of November 25th, we had 228 enrolled. And staff is just working on figuring out gym space and how to accommodate, because please remember, the school district is accommodating Central Oregon basketball, which is the competitive league, club volleyball, their own boys and girls basketball teams. It's a fight for gym space. So what was your question about basketball?
Just, with the timing of
Yeah.
now, I know, unfortunately, supervising the person.
Right.
Bringing the ball, or staying on their phone, and then the corner, during practice. During his meeting, one.
Mhm. Yeah. Do you want to? Well, so I think some of those issues are always going to exist because we have our refs who it's their first job, and we're working with them as much as we can. We're looking at gym space. If we had complaints about driving to Metolius, we're going to have complaints about driving to Warm Springs. We're going to have complaints. But if it's gym space we can have, then we're going to have it. So
7 to 8 practice, unfortunately, is not feasible because then people complain about the 4 to 5 practice time. So people complain no matter what. Unfortunately. Yeah, so unfortunately, due to gyms and the gyms we have available, like I can't have preschoolers practicing at JCMS. That's not feasible. Madras is the only school that gives me a closet to store the bison nets, and a lot of the staff members drive sedans. They're not going to be able to fit those things in there, and I'm not going to ask them to carry around a 50-pound net.
Yeah, so we've got storage challenges at some of the schools. We are getting another set of bison nets to help us better manage game days. But practices are still a little bit tricky because to get them on and off is really difficult. And it's just, we're going to continue to have this issue until we have more gym space. I mean,
I think even when we have the gym space, we're going to have the issues because there's only so many hours in the day. And most people.
Practice, we're going to be in all these gyms that they're going to be like at night, like consider that they're signed up. I think it will have a lot of items for everyone involved, like maybe stuff this out.
Well, and ultimately, at the end of the day, if we've got families that it just doesn't work for their schedule, then we do refund their fee. And so I think we do our best to accommodate as many as we can. But when you have over 200 kids signed up, it just becomes a kind of logistically challenging.
How many age groups is that?
We started preschool and go up to 6th grade.
1,
When you
2,
group
3,
that, is it
4.
3 different groups? 4
So
different-
it's preschool, kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, so 4. Yep.
So have you gotten like approval to use the K-8 gym? You just need to find the staff.
I have no approval for any of the gyms yet. And I also, on top of gym space, I have no volunteers. So I could have like 300 kids sign up, but I'm gonna have 25 on a team, and that's miserable for everybody involved.
So emails will be going out to all of the adults who have folks. Yeah, we've got some volunteers. Oh, we definitely need more. What ends up happening every season is that Shauna sends an email out to those age groups and says, unless we get more volunteers, we're either gonna have teams of 20 or we're gonna have to cancel age groups, and then volunteers come out to help. Working with Kiwanis on doing some really neat things. So they've been really great partners on basketball for a long time. And then volleyball, where did we end up? We had 16 as of the 25th.
5 o'clock today.
So we have 20 as of 5 o'clock today for club volleyball.
And we'll still let people enroll for another, until like 2 weeks before tournaments start, which will start in January.
And then one of the members of Rotary reached out to me and encouraged me to apply for the Cherry Tree Rotary grant. So we applied to under 8 club sports to try and reduce the cost of both tackle football and volleyball for the next couple years. So that grant is due Friday, and I'm sure we'll find out sometime in December if we were awarded. So yeah, I think they make decisions pretty quickly. And that is my executive director report. Are there any questions?
So what was the average fee you know, about for applying for that? What would that be?
So as many days as they let me, so the other problem is I would love to have practice on Mondays, but that means I have to be on call because my rec supervisor coaches basketball, so he's not available. So I would then be working 6 days a week, which I prefer not to do. But it would probably be Tuesday to Friday, whatever they have available, 5 to 8.
Answer some of your questions as well. I think I have a handful of people I can suggest and
Mhm.
for that employment position of what is that for you.
Yeah.
That's one of the direct staff in there. I know they're doing their book with their lots of stuff. Also, they're looking at the recreation gym is booked every day.
Yeah.
The old elementary gym
Mm.
up there at the old school, and that contact would be Edmund Francis. I'm not sure if there's.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we have a good partnership with 509J, so I'm not too concerned about gym space, but also if school is canceled, we don't have practice. And there's a lot of holidays that fall on Mondays, so I'm trying to avoid Mondays because then everybody's gonna want makeup practices in what gym? So, and then, yeah. So I'd like to just keep it a Tuesday to Friday, mostly to avoid those holidays.
And school closures.
Yeah, but then we're also working like Magis Elementary, they have a winter thing like in January, February that we get kicked out for. JCMS, they have basketball games we get kicked out for.
Yeah, it's the logistics of it are a little tricky.
Mhm.
Nope, you're good. Thank you, Janelle.
I like club volleyball. Whatever was that. Go ahead and that's the-
She's available to you on Friday.
Yay. Good night.
Okay, board member highlights?
The Mac Bash. Fun evening and some delicious desserts were taken along.
I was gonna ask, is that from the basket? No, okay.
I heard them in custody. Nice. Plus the- It's the cake stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, probably Mac Bash.
Good.
So I'll piggyback on that for numbers, for the Mac Bash. Mac Trust has reported that we took in $6,880, and thanks to a very generous match from the Bean Foundation, that takes us to $13,760, We still need to subtract our expenses, but we run that event pretty lean. So we should be pretty close to that $13,000 mark. So you're right. And then my other highlight is lap pool filter. I'm back in the pool. Feels good. And Mike and I are both saying it feels warmer than we remembered. I don't know if we built it up in our heads.
It's also freezing outside, so like this is a sauna.
Okay, if there is nothing else, and we will adjourn the meeting at 8:48.
Thanks for sticking it out, guys. That was a long meeting. Mary and Rob.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, unfortunately, if the school says no, I'm not gonna fight them because that's a relationship I'm not going to mess up. Without them, we wouldn't be able to have basketball at all.
I wish there was some. I will be zooming